Hey everybody, Mark Herman, aka LA Bengals fan on most of the major platforms, and I am joined here as always by my partner in crime, Sam Snyder of Primetime Sports Talk, and this is another episode of Jungle Talk. But I'm
Here
not
we
all
go.
that.
Womp, womp,
Yeah,
womp,
womp
womp,
womp womp.
womp.
You know what this team does? This team drives you to do this. Okay,
That's
that's what this
true.
team does. Today's game was an exciting game if you were not fans of either team. Okay, if you just were watching the game because you thought it was, hey, let's check out this football game, it was probably very exciting to watch. But if you
Oh,
were a fan
sure.
of either one of these teams, you got gray hair today. There was
Yeah,
lots of good, there was
absolutely.
lots of bad, and ultimately, we had every opportunity to win today. We did not. So we will do what we always do and go through the good and the bad, and we'll start with the bad.
Well, and of course, like you mentioned, if you were sitting there like watching this at a bar, would you have five straight missed field
Yes,
goals?
it was a new record because
I mean,
four
that's
was the
that's
record, I think.
unheard of.
Yeah.
It's unheard of.
So I think it
And
was. Yeah, I
so
don't
if
know.
you're a casual outsider, you're like, yeah, this is great.
Oh,
This is great TV. But if you were a fan of the Packers or the Bengals, you were like,
oh my.
son of a
Yeah,
bitch,
no.
this is horrible.
So Mason Crosby makes his first three, misses his next three, and then is given the gift of redemption. I know he doesn't feel good about himself, but at least they're going home on a win. And I know
Right.
you had to sit in a stadium, which you said had a lot of Packer fans there today.
Oh my
So
God. We talked about it, Mark. In week one, there were tons of Minnesota fans in the
right.
stadium. So many so that I was a little flabbergasted by it. I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy, especially for week one. This put it to shame. It was at the point where when you were watching, you know, either team kick a field goal, you couldn't tell whether they made it or not because the crowd roared either way.
Right.
And I mean, you couldn't tell.
Yeah.
When the Bengals had a third down on offense, the crowd was loud
Right.
because there were so many Packers fans there. So it was, I'll say just like I did about Minnesota, for the most part, most of them were, super cool. They
Right.
and did what they needed to do when you're visiting a stadium,
Right.
but um doesn't make it any better for a Bengals fan. You still look around and go, this sucks.
Right. But you know what? It's better than the Steeler fans. I mean, I've gone to different stadiums, as the home team and as the visiting team, and there are certain teams whose Dodger fans travel really well. They're not obnoxious fans in other
Sure.
stadiums, but and because of that, Dodger Stadium's a very friendly place, except for the Giants. That gets so
Right.
heated. That's like a Bengal Steeler game to where there's severe animosity between those two franchises. But other than that, I've gone as a Philly fan to Dodger games and never been treated badly. I mean, it's not a bad place for visiting fans to go because the fans are, the fan base is generally okay. So
Yeah, the only caveat I will make to that is I have been to a game in Maryland. I have been to a Bengals game in Baltimore, and Baltimore fans are jerks.
okay, no,
They're jerks. And I know that they're going for the whole like we're pushing you around because you're the little brother or whatever. And I'm like, dude, we don't even have beef with you. We have beef with Pittsburgh.
right.
But Baltimore fans suck, and I have no problem saying that.
Go right ahead. No, if you're saying it from a personal experience, then you're completely
A
justified.
hundred percent. A
So that's
hundred
my
percent.
feeling.
You want to get a beer dumped on you? Go to Maryland.
Okay, yeah, I'll keep that in mind when I need a little beer bath for my hair. So
That's right.
all right, well, let's get into it. I had a bunch of little things that we could touch on, especially like in the first half. I had CJ is way better than Sample. Boy, Sample got one pass where he caught it and he had open field. He tripped over his own feet. And then he makes me think that Jermaine Gresham was fast when he catches the ball. It just
Yeah.
doesn't look like there is another gear. He's like a Mack truck and and then you're lucky to get like two steps before he's
Yeah,
hit.
it looks
So,
like he's in quicksand.
yeah. So I had notes notes like that, but ultimately, let's just jump into the I had squandered a great kick return. We had multiple great field positions that we didn't capitalize on. But let's just talk about the first half stats. We gave up 3 sacks, okay, 2 batted balls that Joe had thrown back in his face, and we were 0-5 on third down. We were lucky to have the 2 touchdowns. We did have one good drive where we got the touchdown, and we did hit that long one. Joe has this habit, in the 2-minute offense of getting us a touchdown right before half. But that's an ugly stat line. 0 for 5 on third down.
Yeah.
Like I said, and the 3 sacks and the 2 batted balls don't count all the hurries. Joe was under siege in the first half a lot. So
he was, and I will say that, I'm jumping all around, so I'm not even waiting for the bad and the good.
Right.
Aaron Rodgers was under siege for the entire game.
Yes.
It's just that we could not finish. We could not finish it. I mean, we were right there so many times. So I guess maybe that is my bad, is that, we couldn't quite get him. Like hands on him, almost in the grasp, and we could not bring him down.
Right.
So and that's difficult to see. And the chase thing was one of those things where I think everybody in the stadium was waiting for, they know Jair Alexander is out.
Right.
They know that the secondary is not awesome anyway. So everybody is waiting, like, why aren't you going up top? Why aren't you going up top? Why aren't you going up top? Finally, we're sitting there, and I looked at the guy, my buddy Rich, sitting right next to me, and I was like, Jamar is lined up 1-on-1. There's no safety anywhere nearby. If we're going to do it, this is it. And boom, turns out that was it.
Yeah, it was still a busted play because Joe Burrow, rolled left and then ended up coming back right. But he saw Jamar, recognized it, and cut across the field. And that's one of those familiarity plays where he sees Mark, he rolls back out right and launches it, and it gets there right before the defender's coming back in, and it actually goes through the defender's hands and right into Chase.
You're right. And I was thinking about a play later, but right. I mean, but even still, they didn't try to do the up top play enough. And I could not agree with you more. Sample dropped at least 2 balls.
Yes.
And I don't think he gets enough credit for being a downfield blocker and being a blocker on the line. But boy, he blew those 2 balls, and T. Higgins too. I don't know if it was rust or anything, but man, it's like he could not catch a ball to save his life. If they
had a couple big
your
catches,
life depends on this, you got to catch it. And he was like, nope, can't do it.
We had a third down conversion where Joe threw it and it went right through his hands. He was going down low to get it, and it went right through his hands and touched the field. He's laying on the ball, but it's already touched the ground. And you just kind of were like, Higgins, you got to pull that in. You just got to pull that in.
I mean, you have to. You have to.
So I felt, this is my opinion, I felt we abandoned the run too early in the first half. I talked early in our preview about how we needed to have ball control and keep Aaron Rodgers on the sideline, so you're not giving 200 yards to Devontae Adams. And we kind of had a couple 3 and outs where we just pass. And I was like, what happened to trying to run the ball? I'm not saying run, but I just thought, I felt like, and then Burrow rolls out and he takes a hit. Ultimately, he's getting hit in the hip, and thankfully his 2 legs go up in the air. They didn't get caught on the turf, and it looked harder than it was. But when I looked at the replay, I really wasn't worried about his knee because I didn't think his knee got hit. So it was lucky that his legs went out from under him. But that was still I don't like to see Burrow making those kind of runs,
Yeah, and I think you have to find a happy medium here. Bengals fans for the last several weeks, whether we won or lost, have been like, we've got to stop with the run pass.
Right.
Run on first, run on second, pass on third. And then when they go pass, run, or something like that, everybody's up in arms. They're like, well, why are we running the ball? And that's just a reminder to all football fans out there that there's no exact science.
No.
But at the same time, was the play calling good today? Nah, it's pretty vanilla.
Right.
It was pretty vanilla. And generally speaking, Zach Taylor still did the run, pass
Right.
over and over again. But I agree with you. I'm guessing that that's a product of Mixon not being 100%.
Right.
Frankly, I was surprised that he even played.
Right.
And
But that was
some,
good because it shows his ankle's not as bad as we thought. The fact that he
well,
could even play today
yeah,
shows that.
but I mean, does it, or does it just mean that Joe is tired of being labeled as an injury risk? You know what I mean? Did he insist on playing like, oh no, it's not too bad?
No,
Because
he had.
I think Samaje had one extra rush attempt, and he had 4 passes caught. So, they were still being really careful with Joe. I'd almost be like, hey, this is the Packers. We're probably going to lose this game anyway. Maybe hold Joe out, because if he hurts that ankle worse, then now we're screwed. Now
Yeah,
he's
but
gone for
he ran okay. When he came in, he still had a burst. He still looked good. He didn't look like he was favoring anything. So
well.
I think he's okay.
I agree
And they
with
had him
that,
on a pitch count. So they, definitely limited his work because of that. And that's why Perrine got half the work. That's why it was 50-50 between the two.
So here's my question, Mark. If you've got a Pro Bowl, a former Pro Bowl running back, and you have to put him on a pitch count, wouldn't you just sit him out against a team that you don't think you're going to beat anyway?
Well, by not sitting him out, or at least pushing the decision to Saturday, you make them prepare for him, and then maybe you do other things. So, like I said, I wasn't against it. And
but then bench him.
Well, but he, like I said, obviously watching him run today, obviously the ankle, it's not a severe sprain, so enough to keep him out. I leave that to the team and the doctors.
I hope so. But as a Bengals fan, I hope I don't wake up tomorrow and find out that Joe Mixon aggravated his lower ankle and now he's gone for 6 weeks, because we know that that's been done a zillion times before.
Well, we'll see. I like I said, watching the game today, it didn't look like he was having any issues.
I wouldn't have played him. Okay. Samaje Perine had Perine had 5.4 yards per carry. As soon as we saw, and he had 4 catches. As soon as we saw that he was A-okay, I yanked Mixon immediately.
Right.
Immediately.
Well, let's talk about the so that's it for like the first half. We could talk about how we had trouble covering the back out of the backfield. We knew that. AJ Dillon had a couple big receptions with runs. Yep. Aaron Jones gashed us. Even when that we didn't keep the containment and they got to the outside, those guys put up some yards. But with all
Aaron Jones carried the ball 7.4 yards per carry.
Oh yeah, when he touched it,
that's absurd.
Right.
Absurd.
So, but let's talk about the 2 interceptions. So we get the ball to start the second half. We're moving down the field. He hits a really nice completion to Chase, who keeps his footing and gets in there. And then the very next play, this is what I'm talking about, us abandoning the run too early. Why not run on the next play and set something up? Instead, he rolls out again and then tries to force one and gives up the interception. And I was just like, that was a Joe, you're trying to do too much. And it's to start the second half. It's our first possession. It's a 16-14 game.
That was maybe the worst throw I've seen Joe do since I've been watching him. Right. And I'm including college.
Right.
This is a terrible throw. I mean, it's going to happen.
Right. And I put down here, rookie mistakes. That's a rookie mistake. So there was that one. We'll get into the interception in overtime, which I don't know how he didn't see that linebacker. But then he's bailed out by the missed Mason Crosby kick. So it's like, it didn't affect, that wasn't the reason we lost, but we'll get into that one. We got our very first penalty in the second half. Okay. And the first 2 penalties were big penalties. The first one extended a drive, which actually led to points for the Packers. And then the second penalty, Spain's holding. We go for it on 4th down. Okay. Joe does drops back and then shoots up the middle, and Spain's holding not only negates the first down, but takes us out of field goal range. And we had to punt the ball. It literally took points off the board. I mean, those are our first two penalties of the game, and they both, one led to Packer points and one took points away from us. They were big penalties. We talk about, the timing of things. I know we didn't have a ton of penalties today, but the first two we had were big.
And you said it earlier. This is kind of a piggyback on the Spain penalty. The offensive line did not play well today.
No.
They were not good. Burrow was under duress all day long against a rush for the Packers, which frankly is not good. They're not very good rushing the passer. So that hurt a lot. The other thing I wanted to mention was, and I hate for us to just keep piling on, but it's a loss is a loss. So we're going to talk about bad. We're going to talk about bad stuff.
Right.
You know what I mean? But the linebackers who have played so well this year were ultimately non-existent in this game.
Yes.
Logan Wilson, 3 tackles. They were all solos. Jermaine Pratt, 4 tackles, only 1 solo. So he was just kind of there on 3 other ones. And those are your 2 guys. Gaither comes in for the occasional third down, but I mean, come on, the safeties, Von Bell and Jesse Bates, they had 8 tackles apiece.
Yes.
You're doing something wrong if your safeties have 8 tackles each and your linebackers have 4, 3, 1. That's ridiculous.
I'm going to pile on even more. The hardest hit that Davis Gathers made today was the one where he missed a defender and he hit Awuzie.
And he hit his own guy.
Pulled out of the game.
He hit his own fucking guy.
I went back. I said, "Who did that?" And I watched Davis Gathers misses the player, tags Awuzie. Apple comes in. We all know what happens when Apple comes in. They immediately complete a couple balls right to Apple's guy. People always say we're harsh on the guy, but that's because he's the weak link.
That's where Jesse Bates got 2 or 3 of his tackles.
Yeah.
Was when Apple couldn't cover, dude.
Yeah.
And I hate to sound like a broken record because we've been doing this, but man, this guy has no business being on an NFL roster. It's ridiculous.
Well, that's why he's on his third team. So, he's a depth guy. We've said it before, but so that was it. So that's what I had here. And then obviously, we had ample with everything that we've just said. Let's transition to the good now.
Let's talk about good stuff.
Okay, you ready? We're going to talk about good.
Ready.
Our D line came to play today.
Yeah,
they didn't, like you said before, they were just short on a lot of plays, but they had Rodgers was under just as much duress as Burrow today. Each team, I think they've only got them down for 2 sacks, but I know they had 3, and I think we gave up 3. So each team had a few sacks, but it's our defensive line came to play today. That's one thing that was very positive.
Yeah, they did. And I mentioned Aaron Jones' stats. He had 103 yards on 14 carries, a 7.4 yard average. That's tough. But, the D-line can't be blamed for being put in situations where, the other team is like, oh, we're running now. It just happens. It's part of football. You know what I mean? Right. But as far as pressuring the quarterback, and they also stuffed Aaron Jones a bunch of times, which is kind of saying a lot. Otherwise, he'd have a 10 yard average.
Right.
I agree with you. And BJ Hill had a huge sack. And Hendrickson had his first, I believe, as a Bengal, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know if it was his first, but he had a sack today. He got around, and there was actually holding on the play, and he still got around the guy and made the sack. So,
yeah. But yeah, they definitely showed up. And honestly, I thought, aside from Apple, I thought most of the secondary played well.
Right.
You're not gonna just completely stop Devontae Adams, who had over 200 yards today.
Right.
Which I think we all saw that was what was going to be coming. I think he had 203 yards on 11 carries, 14
Yeah.
targets, something along those lines. I
Right.
wrote about it in my picks. But I still didn't hate the way the secondary played. I did hate the way the linebackers played. And we don't need to revisit that. But I thought the defense as a whole kind of showed up because we could have been torched by Green Bay. We absolutely could have.
Right. Well,
But
they were a bend and don't break.
But we showed that we have a good defense,
Right.
and that it wasn't an abnormality, that we have played well in several games this year.
Right. Well, it was a bend and don't break defense because we held. Green Bay got into the red zone a lot and settled for field goals, which we said we have to do that. We have to have them settling for field goals or field goal attempts. Like I said, Mason Crosby made 3, Mason Crosby missed 3. So we did hold them a lot to field goals. Awuzie had a great day. He came back into the game, but he had that big interception. We didn't capitalize on it, but we had that big interception. We just completely squandered the field position. Second half, the third down conversions were much better. I mean, we finished the game. We were 0 for 5 in the first half, and we finished 5 for 14. So that means we went 5 for 9 in the second half.
Right.
So that's a good, third down conversion. And
I agree. I'll even say I'll throw these in. 2 of my biggest goods were, Burrow, aside from the interceptions, still played well overall, given how much duress he was under.
Right.
But when he finally got to target Chase 6 for 159 and a touchdown.
Right.
That's enormous.
Mm-hmm.
And I think even bigger, we were talking about Mixon and Pirine. Pirine, 11 rushes for 59 yards, a 5.4 yard average. He caught 4 balls out of the backfield. He did a great job. I'd have to go back and look at the tape to see, as far as his blocking goes, whether he did a good job.
The first sack was on him. He missed the block.
Well, and we've knocked him numerous times on that,
right?
Of course, and it's well deserved on his part. But as far as being able to tote the rock, he did a great job today.
Agreed.
And there was no drop off at all from when Mixon went out and Pirine came in. There was no change at all. There were numerous times that Pirine had a catch or had a run that I thought it was Joe. Like I thought it was Mixon.
When you go back and you watch the tape, I want you to watch Joe Mixon's touchdown run, because this is one of the reasons why I was saying there was no sign that his ankle bothered him. That play was designed to go between the tackles. He sees that it's stopped up. He immediately plants his foot, makes a cut, and goes to the outside. And then with one defender there, kind of throws a juke on him. But that immediate cut will show you that it doesn't look. And then he walks into the end zone. It doesn't look like the ankle was bothering him today.
Well,
I just thought about it when you mentioned the touchdown run. That came to mind today.
And I get that, but at the same time, I mean, he only had 10 carries today.
Right. Well, no, like I said, they spelled him.
The ankle was clearly bothering him at some point.
Or they were trying to limit the wear and tear, So
I guess.
So, but and then we had our chances. Let's get into the overtime. Joe leads this great drive. We get the score.
Do we have to talk about the overtime?
Well, we do, unfortunately, but he gets the score, and then we get the 2-point conversion, so we tied. So with everything that we talked about, Rodgers and all his completions today, 200 yards, Devontae Adams, Aaron Jones, 100 yards rushing, we still, this is what I meant about the bend and don't break defense, we still held them to 22 points. We're tied at 22.
We had no business being in that game at that point.
So, but we were, and we tied them. So we go into over now, right before the game. Obviously, we have a chance to win it. And Mason Crosby misses his field goal. We get the ball. We get into position.
I told everybody around me in the section I was sitting in that I was going to get a Bengals jersey that said Crosby. And then I thought when he missed another one, I was like, okay, this is done. Mason Crosby, Bengals jersey for sure.
Evan McPherson, we get him into field goal range. We could have been a little more aggressive in the play calling. On third down, we were sitting at about a 60-yard field goal. So I get the idea to run the ball. You got a guy with big leg. Let's go ahead and give it a try. We knocked it down to a 57-yarder. Of the two kicks that McPherson misses, I thought the 57-yarder was, like a golf swing. That was a well-struck ball, and it just kind of tailed up. It looked like it was going to sneak in, and it could have just as easily hit the inside of the upright and gone in, but it hit it square. You hear the big thud.
That's one of those where like you win some, you lose some when it hits the upright.
So, it was a 57-yarder, but it was well struck. Where Crosby, when he's missing them, they're ugly. I mean, he missed everything left. Evan misses that, but like I said, it's a well struck kick. It just
with McPherson, I don't think there's any of us that ever think he's going to leave one short.
No,
because he kicks the absolute crap out of the ball every time. So and in some players' cases, that's been a problem. Because when you kick it too hard, that's when you yank it left. I don't think that was the case in this one. But I'm just saying, when he lines up to kick a ball, there's no concern at all that he's got the distance.
Right.
It's like Justin Tucker. I'd feel comfortable lining Evan up from 70 yards out and being like, he's got the leg. It's just a question of whether or not he can get it down the middle.
So we hit the upright. We wind up in overtime, and we win the toss in overtime. And the very first play of overtime, Burrow, I don't know how he didn't see that linebacker. He throws that interception, and I'm like, oh, here we go. There it is. But along comes our defense once again, held them to the field goal attempt because they were at like the 20. And we had two good run stops. We held them to the field goal attempt, and Crosby comes in and misses it. Right. So we're right back in.
You should have seen me. By the way, Mark, you should have seen me talking shit to the Packer fans. On the first miss by Mason, I was like, "Hey, all right," because they were all doing the "Go Pack Go" chant. And on the second one, I was like, "Hey." And on the third one, I was like, "Go Pack, go! Go Pack, go!"
Bing Crosby
I'm that guy.
Yeah. All right. Well, the Bing Crosby misses. So we get the ball. We drive down. Now we've got a 49-yarder. And Evan just misses it just left. He hits the flag, but on the wrong side of the pole.
Yeah.
And he thought he made it. So that's the one that they're showing all over the thing, because he jumps up and then realizes that we didn't win the game.
Right.
And so we go ahead and we give them the ball back. Now, here's my biggest problem. We talk about situational football all the time. You knew I was going to work that in at some point here. The Packers have the ball.
I think we should change the name of this to situational football talk.
Well, but here's the situation. We have the Packers at a 3rd and 16 with 2 minutes left. And somehow we let them complete the ball to Randall Cobb that not only gets them basically the game-winning field goal. And when Crosby's getting, chance number 7 after missing 3 in a row, he's
not going to miss again.
I was like, and I was almost going to be happy to escape with the tie, because if we just don't give them the conversion, the Packers are going to punt and we'll get one more shot at it, or we'll tie. And instead, I was so frustrated of all the times to give up the third. And that's the one where Bates was on his back and he was just short. They couldn't tell whether Cobb kind of rolled over him and got the first down, and they ended up not getting it. But that, of all the conversions to give up that, and I think that was one of the few third down conversions in the second half for the Packers, because they were running about 50% in the first half on third down conversions, and they were 4 for 11. And I think they were like 3 for 5 in the first half, and then 1 for 7 or 1 for 6 in the second. And that was the conversion of all the third down conversions to give up. Why that one? Because it basically, I would like I said, I would have been happier with the tie than
it's one of those things where, we did what I think this team is kind of built on. which is we overcome what we did wrong in the first half. You can say we made adjustments. I don't think it's that. I think it's just that we come back and play better in the second half.
Okay.
So we were doing that thing where, just like against Jacksonville, where we made these great stops in the second half, third downs, and then the offense goes down the field and scores, and then stop them on third down. The offense goes down the field and scores. The only issue was, in this case, that McPherson didn't make that second field goal.
Right.
Because just like I said in the Jacksonville game, he missed the first one. And I said, everybody in the stadium had no doubt he was going to hit the second one. Well, it was the same deal today. Everybody in the stadium had no doubt he was going to hit the second one. It just didn't happen.
I know.
And that it sucks, but it is what it is. Kickers are going to have a bad day. Mason Crosby is a great kicker. How often in his career has he ever missed 3 field goals?
He came into this game having hit 16 in a row.
Right.
And then made 17 and then proceeded to.
In his entire career, how many times has he missed multiple in a game? I would say maybe he's missed 2 like once. And I'm guessing, I don't have the stats in front of me. But we all like Evan, you know what I mean? So we're giving him a pass. It doesn't ease the pain of the loss.
No.
But we all know why we have Evan. I think we're all happy to have Evan. Yeah. Hell, we saw Randy Bullock get trotted out, and I was like,
Fat Randy.
To try to kick a tying one on Thursday, and we saw how that went.
Yeah.
So I'm good with where we are with that. But I in my opinion, Evan gets a pass. It's not a game that I expected to win anyway. We should have won it. It's not a game I expected to win. So that for me eases the blow. Maybe it does it for everybody else.
Yeah, I like I said, this was a winnable game, and you look back, if we miss the playoffs or we miss being 9-8 and we finish 8-9 because of it, you're going to look back and say, here's one that was gift wrapped. We had multiple opportunities to win this game and could not do it. So,
but even when you were getting excited about the possibility of playoffs, did you circle Green Bay as a win?
I did not. But I had the Bears, the Bears as a win. So that's why we were still at the record I was going to be at coming into this. I had us winning the Bears. So
I'm just trying to remind everybody out there that losing to Green Bay is not only not a shock, it's not the end of the world either.
Well,
I don't think nobody circled this as a win.
I'm not putting the bungle bag on my head because of this game. I'm not saying we do that, but it hurts when you have a winnable game like this, where you had multiple opportunities to win the game.
Yeah,
I get that. So
I get that because you get the woulda, coulda, shoulda. We could be 5-0 right now.
Yeah,
but
it could be.
Well, but a lot of teams can say something like that.
Well, but we can point to just a couple. Logan Wilson falls on the Justin Fields ball against the Bears. We win that game. Or Von Bell doesn't get called for the taunting. We win that game. And then this game, if we just make one of those Evan field goals, we win this game. So, we don't have to point. A lot of teams that can point to it have to go, well, this has to go right and that has to go right. They have this whole laundry list. We just have a play in each game. And we win both games. So,
but to be fair, Mark, if the officials didn't blow the fumble call against Minnesota, we lose that game. Right. If Logan Wilson doesn't intercept the second ball, we lose that game. A week ago or 2 weeks ago. So that's just football.
I know. It just hurts.
Sports. We could be 5-0, but we could also be 1-4. We could be 0-5. Anything can happen.
All right. Well, we'll stop the mental masturbation on, on all the speculation, and we'll put that. The last thing I have to say is Burrow did go to the hospital after the game for what they're calling a throat contusion. Apparently he got stuck. They think at some point in the game he got poked in the throat. It didn't sound to me like it was something that was going to keep, Joe out next week like this, but it was just a precautionary thing. He was having trouble speaking. So, and he did not talk after the game at a presser. So
yeah,
he went
I
in,
think it's I think it's I obviously best wishes to him, and not just as a football fan, but obviously I don't want him to be hurt or hurting.
right.
But it sounds to me, I mean, contusion is a really fancy way of saying bruise.
Right.
So, it sounds to me like it's precautionary. And wouldn't you be precautionary when you pay this guy that much money? Of course, you're going to.
Well,
when it's your franchise.
Well, that was
this
what
is your
CJ,
franchise, dude.
Yeah, CJ said that's his nickname on the team is franchise.
Yeah. So I mean, so obviously got to do it. I'm not trying to make light of anything at all. But I tend to think that it'll probably be okay, and that he'll probably be all right. I mean, if he got hit in the throat and it's, a nasty bruise, even if he was, bleeding a little bit internally, generally something like that clears up in 2 to 3 days tops. So I tend to think that he'll be back and he'll be just fine. I mean, hell, it happened during the game and he finished the game.
Right.
So it couldn't have been killing him that much.
Right. So, all right, with that, we're gonna wrap up. Sam, first of all, if you don't subscribe, please subscribe. Hit the little button down there. If you want the alerts, hit the little bell. But that's all we ask of you.
Wait. Well, hold on. The subscribe and the bell.
The bell. So the bell will give you alerts.
That gives you like alerts or whatever.
Yeah, it tells you when our new videos go up.
Hold on. How much does that cost?
It doesn't cost anything.
It doesn't cost anything at all.
This is the max package. All we ask is that you subscribe. Just support the channel.
Crazy.
I know, best deal in town. And tell them where they can find all your stuff, Sam.
Absolutely. I write for Primetime Sports Talk. You can find me on Twitter at Buy and Sell You. Primetime Sports Talk on Twitter is at Talk Primetime or primetimesportstalk.com. And Mark, if you don't mind my saying so, for our Detroit preview, we have a very, very special guest.
Yes. So definitely tune in Thursday. We're going to have a special guest on Thursday.
This person forgot more yesterday than I have learned in my entire life of watching football.
So, yeah. So definitely get ready for an upcoming preview on the Detroit game Thursday. We do have a special guest. And so looking forward to that. And we've gone long today. So I'm going to say, hoo-day, everybody.
Hoo-day.
Take care. See you Thursday.